Okay, in this video we're going to look at concepts like why the allocatively efficient point is different for different nations, why dynamic efficiency is needed to achieve allocative efficiency, so the importance of dynamic efficiency, why technical efficiency is needed to achieve allocative efficiency. Some of these ones we'll actually probably cover in the next video, and then ways that businesses can make themselves more dynamically efficient. So starting with just from the last video, I mentioned that there's a difference between productivity and efficiency. It's important to recognize that productivity is just a measure of output per unit of input, whereas efficiency is a measure of output per unit of input, but also takes into account whether the goods and services produced actually maximize the utility or welfare of society. So productivity is producing a certain amount of output per unit of input, whereas efficiency is ensuring that we do that, but also maximizing the wants and needs of society by allocating resources in the best possible way, and it's impossible to make someone better off without making someone worse off. Why is technical efficiency needed to achieve allocative efficiency? So how I would go about this answer is to define allocative efficiency, the allocation of resources that maximizes living standards, resources that allocate to areas that maximizes society's benefit. It assumes that we have no idle or underutilized resources and we're maximizing our productivity. The links between technical and allocative efficiency. Technical efficiency is important for maximizing living standards because it means increased maximum productivity, which leads to lower prices, which leads to no underutilized resources, which means there's no unemployment or underutilization, which means people have higher incomes and there's more production within society. The higher incomes mean there's no unemployed or underemployed labor. There's no guarantee that technical efficiency will achieve allocative efficiency, but when you're making the link, talk about lower prices, talk about the fact that there's no underutilized labour resources, there's higher incomes, and there's a lack of unemployment. There's no guarantee, though, however, that technical efficiency maximises allocative efficiency, because we can be productive as possible and have no spare resources in terms of labour, but it doesn't mean we're shifting resources to areas that are best for society. So by responding to consumers' demands, producers may actually produce things that have a negative impact on society, like drugs and alcohol. Explain how an increase in technical efficiency impacts allocative efficiency. So going through this question, you define technical efficiency, you talk about how higher productivity can lead to a greater volume of goods and services, which should lead to lower prices, and therefore, assuming the markets are competitive, it should lead to more purchasing power because we get access to cheaper products. However, and this is where you get your 3 marks, you define technical efficiency, explain the links or the benefits in terms of lower prices, in terms of reduced unemployment. However, state clearly there's no guarantee that technical efficiency leads to allocative efficiency, because we can be producing things that nobody wants, which can harm our living standards. So answer structure, define both types of efficiency, state what technical efficiency means, how it leads to lower prices, how it leads to no underutilized resources, and therefore no unemployment, but make it clear that it doesn't necessarily lead to allocative efficiency, because resources may not be going to areas that have the maximum benefit for society, and then provide an example of that. Explain the relationship between technical and allocative efficiency. Again, technical efficiency is achieved through maximizing output per unit of input, having no resources wasted in the production process. If production is technically efficient and production costs are low, more of our wants and needs are satisfied, which is likely to lead to improving allocative efficiency. However, an increase in technical efficiency does not necessarily lead to an improvement in allocative efficiency. Then provide some examples of how we can be productive, but our society's welfare might not be maximised because of illicit drugs, because of negative externalities, etc., etc. These are all very similar questions. Explain how technical efficiency improves living standards. Again, you're talking about how it means there's no waste, increased productivity, that leads to lower prices, that maximises our purchasing power, can also lead to less unemployment, which again is good for maximising people's access to goods and services. Explain how the government can promote technical efficiency within the economy. The government may promote technical efficiency by increasing this idea of enterprise bargaining agreements. So what that means is people get paid for performance as opposed to their wages just being paid by the government. So by tying wages to productivity, people might work harder. The government could subsidise capital investment so that firms are more likely to invest in new technology and equipment. Again, that will make us more efficient going forward. Can also give commissions to people, although that's more from the private sector. Explain why every point in the PPF is considered technically efficient, but only one is allocatively efficient. Every point on the PPF is technically efficient because at all points we're maximising output per unit of input. If we're working within the PPF, we're not, but if we're working on the PPF, it means that there's no idle or underutilised resources. There's no spare capital or labour, and if society is not achieving technical efficiency, then they're working within the PPF. However, working on the PPF doesn't necessarily mean allocative efficiency because we might not be producing the goods and services that society values. For example, we may be producing heroin. We talk about extreme goods that are bad for our health, and therefore that's not maximising allocative efficiency. We'll talk about the types of efficiency 3, where we look at more dynamic and allocative efficiency, and the trade-off between technical and intertemporal efficiency in the last video.